Welcome to the Elaborate Topics podcast, where we focus on lab-specific strategies for medical laboratory professionals. We're proud to be the healthcare detectives that work behind the scenes to get the results needed to influence medical decisions. Let's grow together and jump right into the lab.
All right, hi friends. Welcome back to another episode of Elaborate Topics. I'm your co-host for today's show, Stephanie Whitehead. For those of you tuning in for the first time, I'm your podcasting executive leader and co-host for the show. Elaborate Topics, if you haven't listened before, if you haven't caught our previous episodes, please go back on your favorite podcast platform or on directimpactbroadcasting.com and listen to our previous shows. We got some great material out there for you. But Elaborate Topics is a weekly podcast where myself and my co-hosts, Tywana Wilson and Lona Small, are bringing you topics related to laboratory, and not only laboratory but leadership, to help you excel inside and outside of the laboratory. And I'm really excited for our show today because I have in the house our friend of the show, Ms. Joycelyn Jones.
Hello.
I don't have like an audience to clap. Sure, yay. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Joycelyn, do you want me to call you Joyce for short, or?
Sure, you can call me Joyce.
Okay. So Joycelyn's bio will be in the link below this podcast, but I'm going to really just highlight some of her major accomplishments and some of the giftedness she's shown in her career. So you are an ATD master trainer. Tell us about that.
Okay. Basically, my skills and background it's a variety of different things. And with that ATD Master Trainer, that certification, going through that program, enabled me to hone in on those skills of training, facilitating, engaging your audience, and really taking it to a point where whatever it is that you are delivering, bringing it home, bringing your best self. So, yes.
And so how do you use that in your role today? How does that help you?
In my role today, say, for instance, if I am doing a training class, I am able to take all of that material, that information, building the curriculum, setting forth objectives to ensure that people are truly learning, getting what they need to get to learn in that environment. And not only that, but how are they going to apply it to their everyday jobs? How are they going to take that and take it to the next level? Is so important. So I'm able to use all of those skills as well as show how to get a return on investment with training. Sometimes people feel like it's just that one day you did training and, hey, everybody's happy, right? No, we really want to see whether it was, customer service scores were increased. Was it an employee engagement that was improved? What is it that we are truly increasing and improving?
So these things are really important to any department in any organization. So that's a really great skill to have. So in addition to being a master trainer, you are also a very experienced in executive coaching, employee relations, consulting, and performance development. So tell our listeners that are out there today a little bit about your journey and how you got to the place you are today in your career.
Well, I've had an interesting journey, and I want to start all the way back. As a young single mother working in customer service, doing that every day, it was enough to pay the bills, right? But I realized at that point that I wanted more. I wanted more for myself. Yeah. I wanted more for my daughter. And so I looked at the newspaper. So I'm dating myself because at this time when you look when you look for a job, you went to the newspaper. You went to the classified ads.
Okay.
And when I went to the classified ads and I looked at jobs, a lot of them and at that time it would say like the salary, and I'm like, ooh, that's the type of salary I want to make. And underneath it would say BBA, BS. All of these initials, right? That MBA. And at the time, I didn't have a degree. And I thought to myself, the only thing that's keeping me from obtaining the income and the lifestyle that I wanted to have with me, for me and my child, is these letters, is a piece of paper. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get where I need to go.
Wow.
And so I immediately started to find out what I need to do to get my degree. And so I began to accomplish that. First, getting my BBA in Human Resource Management. And I kind of just fell into that type of industry. One, because I always loved communication, so I was first going into public relations, but I ended up going into human resources, if I can be completely honest with you, because I was like, oh, that's a 9-to-5 job.
I'll be honest. I was like, well, you did say you were a single parent, and so that makes sense. You have to balance your responsibilities with your child, so that makes sense.
So I was like, okay, because I didn't know much about it, but once I started studying it, I immediately fell in love.
Right.
Why? Because it was about helping people in their jobs, the place where you're at majority of the time in your life, right? How, and I love just the study of that, of how do we improve performance? How do you get people, satisfied, whether it's job satisfaction, whether it is building morale, whether it is doing whatever it is to make people successful in their everyday work environment.
Right.
So I totally fell in love with it.
Right.
So doing that and continuing on to get my master's of science in human resource management. But employee relations, I truly enjoyed that as well, because it is about people doing the right thing and ensuring, whether it is the supervisor that needs help on how do I set clear expectations, how do I set the example for my people to follow, or if it is sometimes it's employees that don't get along, and how do we resolve conflict. So being able to just master that and help people win is something that I just enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think if there are any leaders out there listening, the collaboration you have in your department, in your organization with human resources is so vital to your success, because it's just so integral and key as a leader to have good synergy with your team.
Right.
And if something is happening, whether that be a difficult employee, whether that be team dynamics, whether that be we don't have the clear expectations for how we can all perform, working with HR to realign that so you guys can continue to strive towards success.
Exactly. And having to change the perspective of HR. Right. Because there was, or the mindset that HR is not on your side, or, there are a lot of people that are intimidated with human resources, whether it is sometimes that supervisor or that employee. And I wanted to change that. I wanted people to feel comfortable when they came to my office to talk about whatever it is that's going on with them. And I've been able to do that because I think just being authentic, being honest and transparent, and being able to truly engage with people to see where they're at and how can I help.
So what do you think in your career has been the best tool or most helpful to help you thrive and be successful?
Almost what I said. The passion behind what I do is that I want to see people win. I want to see people win. So with that in mind, whether it is recruiting to ensure that we get, the best people on board, whether it is engaging and developing your staff to ensure that they are able to, do their job successfully. I like to see people win.
Oh, that's good. That's a good pushing point. Yeah. We have to find our passion. And in healthcare, if you're not about the team and if you're not about accelerating others so we can all give that ultimate quality care to the patient, why are we here?
Exactly. Yeah, because when, I always, being in human resources and dealing with employee relation issues, if someone contacted me about, say, a patient that was treated badly or hurt or harmed, man, I went over and beyond to ensure that justice was done because, like you said, that's what we are. We're in this health industry, and it's so important that we be an advocate, for our patients.
Right. So in your role, you do a workshop that is super popular with all of the people that you serve called The Secret.
Yes.
Now, I love a good secret. So tell myself and my listeners, just between us, what is The Secret?
Okay. So I basically got this from the book called The Secret, Blanchard. It's a wonderful book. I love it so much that I adopted it with this program that workshop that I do. And then it's an acronym. And basically it is about that servant leadership model. And that acronym, breaking it down, that S, seeing the future. And so I began to allow the leaders to say, okay, what is it, again, that stirs up your passion? What excites you? Why do people want to come to work every day? Right. Can you communicate that in such a way that you stir up passion in people to want to be there, want to come to work, want to work in your department? So what is the future? So that S is seeing the future. That E begins to engage and develop others. And this is an important piece, right? We all know about employee engagement, employee morale. It's very, there's a relation to if your employees are happy and satisfied, then the job performance goes up, right? The retention, you're able to keep your employees. Right. And so being able to truly say, okay, do you have the right people in the right positions, in the right, what they say, in the right bus, in the right seat type deal,
that's good.
Right? And so being able, because it's interesting sometimes when you see that you have someone that may not be good with people, but they're up at the front registering and taking people's information. Right. And then you have the person that is good in customer service, able to speak to people, but they're in the back, doing the file, doing something on the computer. And it's like, okay, again, do you have the right people in the right place? And sometimes it's like, oh, well, I will have to train her to do this, and we don't have enough time. And so you got to make time. You got to develop your people. You got to ensure that they are where they're supposed to be in order to, be successful. The R is for reinvent continuously. And so, again, this is that third acronym, that R. You have to reinvent yourself. You can't. Sometimes you got to disrupt yourself. Sometimes there are things that you constantly do that's routine, and there may need to be a change. And whether it is watching different iPods, iCasts, whether it is videos, vlogs, whatever it is, to continue learning, right? As a leader, you always have to continue learning. Right. As they said, you stop learning, you stop leading. And so sometimes you have to reinvent different processes. I've noticed sometimes people are still doing things that they have done since like the 90s. Okay, right. It's 2020. Right. I know it worked back then, but you may have to change the process.
Right. Generations change, technology changes, healthcare changes.
Yeah.
So the things you did even last year, this year with COVID, may not be effective.
Definitely. Now that you, of course, mentioned, where we're at, the current climate that we're at, dealing with the pandemic, everything has changed, right? You're talking about a new normal, and so how are you now adopting and adapting to this new normal within your department? And so you have to reinvent yourself, reinvent your department, and reinvent different processes. The V is value, relationships, and results. And so we play a game with that of trying to figure out what's more important to you. And sometimes people don't realize it, that they lean either on they're really result-driven or they're really relationship-driven. And so trying to find a balance between the two and realize if you do build relationships with your people, they'll give you the results that you want. And then that last key is to embody the values. And what that means is that everything that you're preaching and teaching, guess what? As the leader, you got to live it, right? So if I'm telling everyone to make sure they're here on time, but I'm coming in whenever I want to come in.
Oh, now,
if I say don't be on your phone, and true enough, I know as leaders, sometimes we got to do stuff or something different, but maybe explain and communicate.
Right.
That way you're not saying one thing, but doing another.
So that's that whole, do as I say, not as I do.
Come on.
So what would you say to the leader that says, you know what, I just don't have time. I don't have time. Sometimes in middle management, you truly feel like you're in the middle. You have your administrators above you. You have, your employees beneath you, and you really do feel kind of squeezed in the middle. Yeah. And I don't have time to reinvent myself. And I've got so many evaluations for my budget or, these reports or this or that. What would you say to the leader who feels like, I would love to engage my employees. I just don't have time. What would you say to them?
I know it's simple to say, but I would have to tell you to make time, because if you don't, unfortunately, the results will show that your people are not as engaged, the morale will go down, and your team could fall apart. So if you don't make the time, unfortunately, it will even show within your evaluation, within your performance, when you don't have a team that's supporting you and when you're not healthy and whole and able to truly give your best to your team.
Right.
It shows. The cracks begin to appear.
Well, you gave me a copy of the book. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I went through it, and it was very informative. I liked the book. We'll put a photo of the book, et cetera, with the author's name in the link below so others can go out and buy this book. It was a very easy read, I would say.
It is. Yeah, Ken Blanchard and Mark Miller. Yeah.
Okay. And the book is basically about a newly promoted executive. Her name is Debbie. Right. And she's struggling to lead her team. Yes. And so she goes to her mentor to continuously get advice. And so the book just really gets to the heart of what does a leader need to do to be successful. So I want to go through a couple of the quotes from the book. Yeah. And then you tell me what some of your thoughts are. Okay. And you already mentioned one. Right. One of the ones that quotes in the book that stuck out to me is when you stop learning, you stop leading. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Exactly. If you stop learning, it's like, because again, the world is constantly evolving, right? We're constantly changing. And so if the last thing that you learned was things that you did in 2017, 2018, again, it's completely different now for 2020. So what are you learning as far as now how to empower your staff with either now having to do maybe webinars or WebEx, Zoom? There's different platforms that you may have to get comfortable with in order to engage your staff. What new going on with emotional intelligence, or there are things going on with crucial conversations. There's just new material, and of course, this new generation that's coming, on board. As far as I think it says by 2025, 80% of the workforce will be millennials. Wow. So if you're not ready in learning,
there's a different management style.
There's a completely different management style for the millennials. And not to mention, majority of them then also will be leaders.
Right.
So are you ready, and what are you able to, get out of that? So
I want to read, that's really good. I want to read also an excerpt from the book that I found really pivotal as I was reading the book. And for the listeners out there, it's on page 28. Let me see what chapter this is. Come on, Steph. It's on page 28, first chapter. It said, a leader's motivation or intention as a leader is a character issue. That's below the surface. Leaders, regardless of their skill level, must continuously ask themselves, why am I leading? If I am leading people with the intention to serve my people and my organization, I will behave in a functionally different way than if my motivation is self-serving. Yeah. The key question you must continuously ask yourself is, am I a self-serving leader, or am I a service leading leader? And to me, that was very pivotal because recently my co-host and I did a show on knowledge sharing. And during the show, we talked about, and this may happen in other professions, but I can only speak for the laboratory profession because that's where I am. That's my heart. That sometimes we promote people because of skill. You got the best tech, the tech that's been here 15, 20 years. They know all the processes in the lab, backwards and forwards. A position comes open, and I promote them. But what this is basically saying is, regardless of your skill, if that person is not serving people, it does not understand what a servant leadership role is in the department, then really you wouldn't be successful. And so many times I'm not sure if we look at that in our interview process when we're selecting a person for a position.
That's huge because I have seen it time and time again. You have a good employee that's a good performer, but they may not necessarily be a good leader.
Right.
And you put someone in a position because of that skill level, but they may not be a great servant, because it is about, that serving others when you are a leader. And even, just sometimes hiring people all together. I ask sometimes, okay, if you have the person that has a great attitude, but yet they don't have the skill set, maybe it might be a 6 month, almost maybe a year learning curve, versus someone that has a bad attitude, but they're ready to go. Their skill level is there. Which one do you hire?
I'm going to hire the one with a good attitude. Right. And I say that because you can't train attitude. I can train the technical skill, but I can't make you be nice to people if that's not already a characteristic of yours.
Come on.
And so one of the things that a mentor of mine told me a long time ago when I was just entering into management, and they told me, I guess let's call it a fable, or I guess a metaphor, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure. But he said, he had a child. He said, I have a son, and my son is 6, and, I have a car. And he said, I could give, my son the keys to my car right now. He's my son. I can do it. It's my car.
Right.
So I can do that. He said, the car can handle it. The road can handle it. But at 6 years old, he can't handle it. So a gift that he would, greatly enjoy at 16 could really hurt him at 6. And that's how we have to view sometimes promotions and interviews with staff. Sometimes somebody has really great potential, but a good thing too soon could damage somebody's career, could harm their career, or could deter them from something they could be really good at a later time. They're just not ready right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't teach you to care about people. I can't teach you to treat people right. That has to, come with you. And like you said, I can train you with the skills and everything where you need to be, but some of the characteristics of a person, you got to see that first before promoting and hiring.
And I would say this past year, especially through COVID-19, I have personally pulled on many of the leadership trainings I've had over the past 15 years. And some of them I learned in your workshop, all of the dealing with difficult people, all of the crucial conversations, all of the having meetings people want to attend. Some of those I use multiple, continuing educations in one day because COVID, this pandemic, being in the laboratory, being a frontline leader really forced you to pull and draw on everything you had learned to be able to cope and manage, your team through this. Exactly. One more quote. True leadership has nothing to do with one's level in the organization. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I start off with that as far as asking leaders, what is leadership? Do I have to, is it a male? Is it a female? Is there a certain salary that I have to make to be considered a leader? Is there a certain job title or position that I have to be considered a leader? And it's interesting that when people begin to really think about it, it's like, no, I can be in housekeeping. I can be in an entry-level position and still be a leader, you know, no matter what. And I even do that in our new hire orientations, and they really grasp the point and get the point as well that, you know, no matter what, even on my first day on the job, I can still carry myself as a leader. Right. So, no, it has nothing to do with your position or your job title, but the way your character is, the way you carry yourself, and your actions, your behavior, all of that exhibits leadership.
Right. And so we're working in a field, in a world today that requires so much of us.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. You know, healthcare is ever evolving. And in a time where we're being asked to give more, serve more, do more, and elevate ourselves so we can elevate, you know, our career and our positions and our position in healthcare, what advice would you have to listeners that are working to advance themselves in leadership and make themselves better leaders in their career, but might be struggling to maintain a balance, a healthy balance? A healthy balance is good for all of us, between harmony in your life, a good sense of self, a good sense of synergy. So I know who I am, therefore I know who I can be to others. And then also I'm continuously learning where I am so I can refine and get better and go to the next level.
Definitely. I mean, we wear many hats, right? Whether you are at home and you're a mother with the children, maybe a wife with your husband, then you come to work and then you have to put on a whole different hat and responsibilities that you have. And so, man, being authentic to yourself, realizing who you are, and taking that time for self-care. Stephanie, you know, sometimes you have to pause and take care of you.
Yeah, I do those self-care Sundays.
You got, okay. What's a self-care Sunday? Tell us about that.
You have to do a self-care Sunday. You have to pick, and it could be self-care Tuesday, wind down Wednesday. You have to pick a day that you can look forward to where you give back to yourself. And you do that, I know we can't travel right now, but you do that airplane method. You know, I have to put the mask on myself first. You know, many our listeners may be many things, maybe many backgrounds, many religions back there. I myself am Christian, and so in the Bible it teaches us that our cup overfloweth, and so the overflow is for others, my family and my employees. What's in the cup is for me. If the cup is empty, it can't overflow to anybody else. And so I have to give back to myself, and that comes with learning yourself. Because so many times you give so much that you have nothing else for yourself. And so, you know, sometimes when I'm mentoring people, I always talk about this with the metaphor of Thanksgiving. So I say, always look at yourself like the turkey. You know, that's funny. You know what? Now that I say it out loud, it is funny. But flow with me. Just go with me a little bit. If you look at yourself like the turkey in Thanksgiving dinner, anybody out there for Thanksgiving dinner, you know this, is one of those things that where you really just prep it and put it in the oven, and you can forget about it for a while because it's really, you know, it's going to bake for a couple of hours. And then you look at the other things in your life as a side. So you got, you know, in Thanksgiving you obviously have, I don't know what you guys do, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, stuffing. So that could be the kids, your job, you know, your extracurricular activities, organizations you may be involved in. Myself, I'm involved in, you know, my sorority and Girl Scouts, et cetera. You get so busy working on the side, you may realize I haven't checked on the turkey in a while. You know, that's cooking. Yeah. And so every once in a while you have to check back with yourself. You change just like the things around you change. And so what is it that I like to do? You know, sometimes we don't even ask ourselves that. What are my hobbies? You know, sometimes if you're filling out an application or you're going through different paperwork, periodically in your life, you may pass by a question that says, what are your hobbies?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like me, sometimes you hadn't even thought about what your hobby is in so long. I don't even remember what I used to like. You know, what do I like? Do I like traveling still, or do I like, you know, most of the time it's grocery shopping. You know, get back, continuously check in with yourself, because unless you know where you are all the time, you don't know where your baseline is. You can get better.
It's so true. And so I realized that I love nature. I never even knew that because busy. But when I take the time to take that nature walk or jog, man, it brings back this, like, nostalgic feeling of childhood, and I just enjoy it. Retail therapy, I'll be honest, to a certain degree, but I do want to say things that you hopefully sometimes don't have to spend money, but, you know, if you're able to do it, balance.
All things in moderation.
Hello. A little, yeah. So, you know, eating healthy, eating clean, it makes me feel good. And of course, again, that balance, because, hey, sometimes I do want that ice cream sundae. Sometimes, hey, eat that cookie, buy them shoes, okay? You know, you want to ensure that you take care of yourself, whether it's getting your nails done, your hair done, buying some new makeup, you know, loving you and feeling good about yourself. That way you can go to work and be the best that you can be. That way you can go home and love your children, love your family. You know, you have to find balance in your life. Otherwise, if you're empty, you can't give if you're not whole and complete.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Because sometimes many of the listeners to the show are laboratory personnel.
Okay.
And by personality, scientists can be detail-oriented or perfectionists, you know, like to follow the procedures. And sometimes we can get very discouraged by failure. And so what have you learned from your failures in your career? And, you know, what are your thoughts? Are you afraid to fail, or do you embrace failure as a catalyst to help you move in a different direction?
Failure is hard. Failure is hard for all of us. And I can identify with that perfectionist spirit, that perfectionist person wanting everything to be perfect. But I've learned many times that I am not perfect, you know. God didn't create us as perfect people. And so there are many things that I had to face when either being denied for that position or being rejected for certain things. One, I took it as, okay, how can I learn from this? What is it that I need to improve? You know, I thought that maybe I was perfect for this position or for whatever it was, and I didn't get it. You know, maybe there could be something better out there for me. You know, putting a positive spin on it and realizing that, okay, what do I need to learn? Maybe there's something else that, you know, God has for me. And also realizing that even if it's not perfect, I can still do it. You know, some of the things that I do, you know, some of my Facebook Live and some of my speaking engagements, I would think to myself, man, I'm not ready. And I realized that push from within me that says I have to do it. Even though it's not perfect, even though I may mess up, even though my words may get jumbled up, this is what, you know, is in my spirit to do. I'm pushing myself, and I'm doing it anyway. And people are oftentimes blessed and so happy when I just give of myself and realize that I'm not perfect, but I'm walking in my purpose.
That's so good, and that's so needed. Sometimes we are hesitant to do things because we're trying to wait until we're completely ready or everything is perfect. And not knowing that sometimes you just have to step out there and do it. Even if it's not perfect, you'll learn along the way. So if you could look back in hindsight over your journey, over your career, to your younger self and say, I wish I would have known X, Y, and Z, what advice would you now give to your younger self, the one that was a single mother, the one that was looking through the newspaper, to help her and along the way in figuring it out?
So many things. First, believing in myself more. Believe in myself, trust myself and the gifts that has been given to me and my talents. Also, I think networking is so important. I was kind of a loner at first and thinking, I can do this on my own, but realizing that you need people.
You need people.
You need people.
You can't do it alone.
You can't do it alone. And even they may be different, they may think different, they may look different, but networking and connecting with people is so important. Learning how to communicate and be bold within yourself and confident within yourself and continuing to go after whatever it is that is put in your heart to do. You know, go after it with all of your passion, all of your experience, whatever it is, go after it.
And the book, The Secret, is such a great tool and such a great resource.
Yeah.
What other tidbits of tools, whether it be, like you said, the podcast or an app or another book, would you leave our listeners with that they can go out and continue to use it to make themselves better?
There are several books that I read and constantly, either refresh myself with as far as on a personal level and a professional level. Professionally, I have right now, Everyone Deserves a Great Manager.
Oh,
and so that one is really good. It's right there, and I need to probably, so I can get the author, but you can grab that real quick. Everyone Deserves a Great Leader, a Great Manager. Who is that by? Scott Miller. Yeah, that's definitely a great one. It's by the experts at Franklin Covey. On a personal level, I like Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. And that one, sometimes you find yourself in a low place, and it's just teaching you how to pick yourself back up. You know, wash your face, put that lip gloss on, whatever you do, put that blush on, and you walk in your confidence in whatever God has called for you to do. It's that one. There's another one I read. It's called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way by Lisa Tykehurst. And that one has to do with sometimes unfortunate things happen. And I think a lot of our listeners can probably identify with that one right now, going through the COVID-19, going through some of the turmoil, whether it is personal or professional. When you've been hit, and it's like, okay, this wasn't, in the cards. I wasn't expecting this. How do I overcome difficulties and challenges in my life? So I love that one as well.
Those are really great and inspiring, especially with, like you said, COVID-19. 2020, I think, we've all seen people refer to 2020 as a very difficult year with some of the heavy headlines that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
And so the resources that you've been giving are really helpful.
Yeah. It's another one I just ordered. It's called Eloquent Rage.
Okay. I hadn't read that one.
That one is really good.
That's an interesting title.
And actually, I got that one. There were some resources that came out from the email from Airbnb.
Okay.
And they had a Black employee resource group where they began to put out resources for, people of color, in which they're stating what we can be more educated on. And this book is actually by a Black feminist. And what's so interesting about it is that she's walking and talking about her journey as being a Black woman, she is a professor, and then kind of a Black activist, who she calls herself, by night. And so an understanding how it's all about that girl power, all about finding yourself. She finds that being that Black feminist is a superpower within, of just, being able to be confident in the skin that she's in and the hair that she wears. So that one is an excellent read as well.
Well, there you guys have it, and thank you so much, Ms. Joycelyn, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, your life and your career, to give Elaborate Topics the opportunity to interview you today. It was an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for embarking everything you have to our guests. How can our listeners find you, reach out to you, or follow up with you?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at Joyce Jones. I have a Virtuous Women's Group, Facebook group that I go live every Friday at 7 a.m. of empowering and encouraging women that love to love themselves, love God, love what they're called to do. And so I kind of give a word every Friday morning on moving forward with that. And you can find that Virtuous Women if you search under that on Facebook under groups. Instagram at One Lady Jones is my handle. So find me, and I'll be there ready to inspire and encourage you. That's what I do.
Thank you so much. And to our listening audience, thank you for tuning into our show with our special guest, Joycelyn, sharing the secret leadership tips to live by. If you like what you heard and you want to listen to our previous shows, please subscribe to directimpactbroadcasting.com. And remember to send us an email at elaboratetopics@directimpactbroadcasting.com to learn more about this topic and others, or to be a guest on the show. If you have a leadership or a laboratory topic that you'd like to share, we'd love to have you on. Follow up with us on this show and others on your favorite podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, Apple Play, or others. Follow me at Stephanie Whitehead on Facebook and LinkedIn. My handle on Instagram is Stephanie Y. Whitehead. Please tune in next week and hear another amazing show of Elaborate Topics. And until then, have a great week.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Elaborate Topics, where your hosts discussed relevant strategies for laboratory professionals. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and listen to us on directimpactbroadcasting.com. Stay tuned for another episode with information you can use to excel in your laboratory career.